Okay, so are you ready to dive into Emmy Kural's unpublished fantasy novel? It's a world where, like, Greek mythology meets fairy tale romance, but with this, like, ticking clock element that just amps up the tension.
Yeah, it's really interesting how she takes these familiar elements, right? You get your mythical creatures, forbidden love, all that good stuff. But then she throws in this deadline, this really specific deadline, and it just like instantly raises the stakes.
Right, and it's not just like any deadline either. The story picks up right after the protagonist, Josefina. She's just defeated this villain named Myrna. But Josefina still has, these lingering feelings for Theodore, her friend. And to make matters worse, this mysterious new villain, Nixie, shows up in their town, Rheinfelden.
And that's where this 18-day deadline comes in. It's like this constant pressure cooker, this sense of urgency that just permeates the entire story, right?
Mm.
It's not just about Josefina having to confront these external threats, but she's also battling against time itself.
Totally. It's like that feeling when you have a huge deadline looming, or maybe it's just life in general, that feeling that the clock is always ticking. She really captures that sense of mounting pressure.
Absolutely. And speaking of pressure, we have to talk about Theodore, right? He is such an interesting character, this blend of contradictions. Like, he's incredibly protective, fiercely loyal, but at the same time, he's carrying around this mysterious past, like something out of Hamlet almost.
Oh, totally. You can tell he's still reeling from losing his mother and sister. Like every interaction, especially with Josefina, you can just feel the weight of that loss.
And then there's Josefina, our protagonist, this fierce warrior. But she's battling her own demons, too. Her feelings for Theodore, they're growing stronger, but she's also got this destiny thrust upon her, this immense power she possesses in the Soul Shard. It's a lot.
Don't even get me started on that soul shard. It's like its own mystery, right? And it seems to be connected to that recurring number 18, which, by the way, is like this constant countdown throughout the story, just adding to the suspense.
And the supporting characters. Like, don't even get me started. We've got Diablo, shrouded in mystery,
Mm.
Charlotte, who pops up in Josefina's mind, helpful, but kind of creepy. And then there's Seth.
Yeah.
Morally ambiguous, definitely connected to Nixie somehow. Seriously, what's his deal?
Oh, Seth is definitely trouble. It's like Kirill is dangling this thread. Like there's this whole other story there just waiting to be told.
Right. And the characters, the way they're crafted, it all feeds into these bigger themes Kirill's exploring. Love, loss, destiny. Like that scene where Theodore breaks down in the Enchanted Garden. He's so torn between his feelings for Josefina, but he's also terrified of repeating the mistakes of his
Oh
past.
my gosh, that scene just, it wrecked me. It really shows how our past traumas can have this hold on us, even when it comes to love?
And here's where things get really interesting. So we find out that Theodore is actually the reincarnation of Nixie's former love, Aaron. Talk about a plot twist.
Right. It's like Kirill is turning this idea of good and evil on its head. Suddenly you see that Nixie's actions, while extreme, are driven by this deep, deep love and longing, and it makes you think about grief in this whole new light, like how it can manifest in these really unexpected and sometimes destructive ways.
And it raises this huge question, right? How far would you go for love? What are you willing to justify in the name of love? Nixie's actions, they make you confront your own beliefs about love, about loss, and the lengths we'll go to for the people we care about.
It really makes you question everything you thought you knew about the characters, right? Like you think you've got them all figured out, and then boom, Kirill hits you with this bombshell.
Right? And it gets even crazier when you realize that Josefina rejecting Theodore earlier, like her pushing him away, it actually played right into Nixie's hands.
Oh, for sure, because she was so afraid of repeating her parents' mistakes with love and relationships and all that. Josephina was just trying to protect herself, but it backfired so badly.
Exactly. And it just goes to show you how much our past experiences, especially with things like love and loss, can influence our present.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's not always in a good way. Like Kirill's saying, hey, we're all carrying baggage, but it's how we deal with it that matters.
And boy, does Theodore's baggage cause some serious drama. Like, he becomes so cruel to Josephina. The things he says to her, you just know they're eating him up inside, but he still says them. Ugh, my heart broke for both of them.
It's like that's how deep his trauma runs, you
Yeah.
know? All that pain, it's just bubbling to the surface, and he ends up pushing away the one person who could actually help him heal, just out of this deep-seated fear of being hurt again.
And it all leads up to that scene where he betrays Josephina, like in the worst way possible. I mean, under Nixie's influence, of course, but still, I was speechless.
That scene, that's a turning point in this story, for sure. It's like Josephina's entire world shatters, and she's forced to confront these really intense feelings for Theodore while also dealing with the agony of betrayal. Like, how do you even process that?
It's brutal, and she's literally left for dead, but even then, she still holds on to this hope, this belief that the real Theodore, the one who cares about her, is still in there somewhere.
And that's what keeps her going. That belief in their bond, in their connection, it's what fuels her survival
It's
instinct.
sort of about resilience, right? But Josephina's not completely alone in all of this. Seth, who also has his own beef with Nixie, becomes this unexpected ally.
And I love how their storylines intersect. They've both been played by Nixie, so they have this shared understanding, this common enemy that brings them together. It's a partnership built on, like, empathy and desperation.
And that shared goal leads them straight to the Moonstone Festival, where Nixie plans to use Josephina's soul shard to bring back Aaron, like permanently.
The tension is just through the roof at this point, right? Curl is a master of suspense, and it becomes clear that this isn't just about Theodore's soul anymore. It's about the fate of their entire world. No pressure, Josephina, right?
Yeah, no pressure at all. But despite being completely terrified, she still steps up to face Nixie. Talk about a showdown.
And it's not just a physical battle either, right? It's his battle of wills. Josephina refuses to back down, even though she's risking everything.
I mean, she's come such a long way from that girl who was too scared to even admit her feelings. She's a total badass.
Totally. And just when you think Josephina might actually pull it off, that she might defeat Nixie, Curl throws this curveball. A dance battle for Theodore's love.
It's like out of nowhere, we're thrust into this high-stakes dance-off, and it's mesmerizing. Every movement, it's like this raw expression of their love for Theodore.
And you're sitting there on the edge of your seat like, is Josephina's love going to be enough? Can she break the curse? And then, bam, that cliffhanger.
That ending, oh my God. Theodore's dream, the one with that creepy little girl in the Lolita dress, she just, like, materializes out of thin air, eyes locked on Josephina.
Chills, literal chills. It's like Curl took this fantasy romance and injected it with this dose of pure horror, and it leaves you wanting more.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, That little girl, she just appears out of nowhere. Like, what does it all mean?
Right. It's such a chilling image. Curl knows how to leave us wanting more, that's for sure. It
Mhm.
makes you wonder, who is this girl? And what does she want with the Josephina? It's like, all bets are off.
Seriously. But even with that creepy ending, like, throughout the whole story, you see this message about resilience. Josephina goes through so much, but she never gives up on Theodore.
It's true. And even when he's at his worst, when he's pushing her away, saying these awful things, she still sees the good in him. The Theodore she knows is buried underneath all that pain. It's kind of beautiful in a way.
It is. It really is. It shows that real love isn't always, sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it's about sticking by someone even when they don't deserve it. Just believing in them when they can't even believe in themselves.
Absolutely. And that's what makes Josephina such a strong character.
Yeah.
And let's not forget all those little details Curl sprinkled in. Like, remember those German translations?
Yeah.
And that news report. What was that all about?
Oh, man. Don't even get me started. It's
Oh.
like she's dropping these clues, these little hints that there's something bigger going on.
Exactly. They make you question everything. Like, is there a connection between Josephina's world and ours? Curl is definitely messing with us.
Totally. And those German phrases like, alight you maggots, listen up. Why is that even in there? And all those 18s everywhere.
It can't just be a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Especially with that number already being so significant. It's like Curl is leading us down this rabbit hole, and we have to follow it.
We do. And then there's that character recap, like right in the middle of everything. But it focuses on Myrna, the villain from before. And we learn about her past, how she lost her daughter Aurora. It just adds this whole other layer to her character.
Totally. Suddenly, she's not just this one-dimensional bad guy anymore. You understand her motivations, her pain, even if her actions were extreme.
It makes you wonder about Nixie, too. Could she be driven by something similar, some kind of loss that's twisted her view of everything?
It's definitely possible. Curl is so good at creating these complex characters. They're flawed, they make mistakes, but that's what makes them feel so real.
Exactly, and that's what makes this story so captivating. Emmy Carroll has created a world that is both magical and dangerous, full of love, loss, and these really tough choices. It's the kind of story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It really is. And as you delve into this world, pay attention to those little details, those hidden clues that Carroll has woven throughout the story. You might be surprised at what you uncover.